What do you genuinely not understand? The process of thought. How we can make so many decisions in a split second. Internal dialogue is crazy. Does everyone have the same sort of inner thoughts? Do animals have internal dialogue? When I think about it, it blows my mind. Bitcoin. No matter how it's explained to me. That off vibe you get when you go to an empty parking lot or an IKEA. For those curious as to what I mean, check these subs out. R. The night feeling. R. Dead malls. And R. True backrooms. Quantum mechanics. That is whack. I was really good at maths at school until year 10 when we hit a topic called numbers and proof. It was about proving that the answer to an equation was definitely right. I think? I don't really know. Because I never understood a single thing the teacher said that whole term. Traffic. You sit on the highway driving 3 miles per hour thinking, must be a wreck ahead, then you get clear of the traffic and there was never any clear reason or cause for the traffic. I'm a physics teacher and I'm embarrassed to say that despite reading several explanations, I still don't understand how batteries work. Specifically, if one end of the battery basically houses excess electrons and the positive side has a dearth of electrons, why doesn't connecting two batteries but not in a closed circuit cause half of each battery to drain? When people who are blind since birth talk about that they do not even see black, it's like nothingness. Chemistry. I genuinely have no idea how atomic layers or molecule diagrams work and no explanation I have ever had has helped. Please do not send me any explanations. Thank you. The phrase, happy as a clam. How the could you tell if a clam is happy? Why I hate going to sleep and also hate waking up edit. I know people hate edits but I didn't think this would murder my inbox and I don't have time to reply to every single person. So, I'm not depressed. I used to be. For several years. But a few years ago I got better. Didn't just happen overnight obviously, but I'm not gonna go into detail about it here. I'm much happier now and enjoy life a lot more. But I still hate my sleep schedule. I keep trying to get it somewhat normal. But it keeps getting up. Maybe anxiety is a part of it. But I doubt that is the sole reason. I don't hate change. For the most part. It depends on the change but I don't think that applies here. I'm not a toddler, kinda wish I was though sometimes. I've tried using melatonin and other sleep aids. Sometimes it works but not always. Doesn't matter how early I go to bed. I will lay in bed for 6 hours and not be able to go to sleep until 7 in the morning. I've had this problem for almost a couple decades now and in multiple settings when I was in high school. When I had a full-time job. And now that I'm going back to school and have a part-time job. I didn't know hating get in and out of showers was thing. But apparently it is. What a bunch of weirdos. Seriously though. I just think it's very nuanced and there are multiple factors that contribute to it. I'd like to have a sleep study done. But it's so difficult to find the time to do so right now. And to all my fellow sleep haters. Unite. Or not. We'd probably be a terrible team. Being tired and sleeping at odd times and whatnot. Magnets. How do they work? That weird ringing randomly in my ear. Like a TV just turning on or something. Physics. I understand the basics. But when it starts getting more technical I get lost. People who share unsolicited nudes. Why? What are you hoping to gain? What's the endgame? Like some poor hapless person is just gonna be like, hey nice bro. Here's £1 million, or some. Just. Why? Guys that hit each other in the nuts for fun. WTF is with that. I watched an interview with Steve-O and he says fans want him to kick them in the nuts and are so happy and thank him when he does. Emotions. I have emotions. I experience emotions. But they don't permeate every part of my life. And I often think everyone else is overly emotional. When it's probably me just lacking emotional range. Edit. The empathy thing. I do understand empathy and I act with the knowledge that I should do things based on how I want people to treat me, the golden rule, but it's not emotionally driven. It just seems ludicrous that someone wouldn't behave that way. Also, I know it's cliché but thank you for my first gold. I thought this comment would just get buried. Edit. Grammar. How so many terrible commercials make it to TV. When I see a dumb commercial, my thought is always the same. A group of grown people sat around a table somewhere and discussed how they want to promote their brand. They came up with an entire marketing strategy. Probably had a vote about it. And sent approval on to the marketing department, company for production. That marketing department created, scripted, filmed, and produced that piece of commercial. Then they sent it back to the group of grown people, who sat around the same table watching the commercial before agreeing that it's sending the exact message they want about their brand. They likely then vote again to approve running it on TV. A huge budget is approved for putting that dumb commercial out there. And the result is the piece of I just saw on TV. Yeah. I don't understand that. How anyone learns to read. When I try to break it down, it just seems so crazy and impossible. See this shape? It sounds like this. Or like this. Or sometimes like this. Actually. Sometimes it doesn't make any sound at all. Got it? Great. Now here's 25 more of them, but 4-year-olds are doing it. Insane. The fourth dimension. What the actual heck? I read an explain like I'm 5 thread, but it still doesn't help. Sometimes when I'm just sitting there, I become hyper-aware of my senses, and then the whole concept of existence just confuses the out of me. Edit. Look, Mom. No hands. People who take personal offense when your taste in music, movies, food, whatever differs from theirs. I went to college with a guy who listened to exclusively classic rock. Great genre. Totally get it. Except he would get legitimately angry when someone put on rap in the car or wanted to sing pop at karaoke. Refused to work with a friend of mine in a group project because she loved techno. Said her opinions would never matter because obviously something was wrong with her. Why can't you just let people enjoy that they like? How language developed. Obviously it did, but I just can't fathom how. I just picture cavemen men walking and pointing to things and grunting. Sorry for the edit, but my typo was driving me crazy. How perfect strangers make small talk. And how they know when to end the conversation without it dragging on awkwardly. How I spend hours making a perfectly curated list of shows I want to watch on Netflix, but when I actually have time to watch them, none of them sound appealing, and I end up deleting most of the items off the list I spent hours making. Just thinking about life and the universe. Like, where do we go after we die? Why are we here? Thinking about the universe and how big it is in space and time? Black holes? Why are here generally, and what's our purpose? If there are other life forms in different galaxies? Nothing. Like, the whole concept of nothing boggles my mind. What was here before our universe? Nothing. What's in between the atoms of our bodies? Nothing. What's for dinner? Nothing. I just don't get it. This is probably stupid, but I'm sometimes puzzled at how we named stuff. Like, who decided a table was called table? Or chair? Those everyday things we're used to. Most of the humor of popular YouTubers. They literally just scream, make dumb faces and do goofy dances. Don't see how that appeals to anyone over the age of 10. Quibi. Why do I keep hearing ads for it everywhere? Are people actually watching these shows? What's the appeal? How we literally have the entirety of human knowledge available all the time on a device that's small enough to take everywhere, and some people think the Earth is flat. Vaccines cause autism and 5G will melt us from the inside. Former infantry team leader here. What always blew my mind is how these kids, fresh out of high school, never lived on their own. With such minimal life experiences, signed themselves away to a life of literally kicking doors in, being shot at, and being completely miserable 95% of time. Aside from the obvious. When you step off on patrol, especially when briefed that enemy troops have been confirmed in the area, and taking contact is very likely, you have zero idea if you'll make it back to your little plywood and Hesco paradise to ever watch another sunrise or not. I joined in my mid-20s. And always thought of college and all the things I never would have experienced had I did what they did. I dunno. It might sound dumb. And eventually you come to terms with the dangers of the job. But still, I personally will never understand it. Why I'm here. My mum decided to get laid 28 years ago, and I had to put up with the consequences ever since. People that will flip you off or yell at you when they are the ones doing the wrong thing. One time my daughter was getting off the bus and crossing the street when a car came barreling down the road running the bus stop sign. I ran out into the road in front of my child, held up my hand and screamed stop. The lady flipped me off. Like, seriously. I saved you from killing a child. My child, and you flipped me off. I won't go into the details of what I did next. I wasn't proud. Edit. To add what I did and some more details. This lady did this a few times a week. I was ready for her. My daughter wasn't the only one crossing. I just had a feeling I would encounter her that day. Okay. So I started screaming at her because I was in shock that instead of her saying OMG, I am so sorry, she flipped me off. She continued to flip me off and started screaming at me as I was yelling at her that she would have ran over my daughter. I ran up to her door where her window was open and started grabbing at her, trying to pull her out through the window and at the same time trying to open her door. I was seriously pulling her out as she was trying to get her window up. She finally got her window up and pulled her door back shut. I was screaming curse words and whatever else, I really can't tell you, yelling at her to get out of the car and banging on her window. She finally sped away and I stood there in the middle of the street and all the other moms. The bus driver and a bus full of kids were just staring at me. I felt stupid for cursing in front of all the kids and losing it. The bus driver called me over and said as I was trying to kill her he got her license plate and was going to report her. So at least that happened. But yeah, I am super non-confrontational. But when somebody does something like that, I have no problem going off, I guess.